we're talking about ADHD and shame. So this is like a important topic that a lot of people experience, right? And it's a thing for ADHD. That's a normal thing. And so what we're going to talk about today is like releasing that shame as well. Like what can you do about it? Why is it common? And go from there. So first off, ADHD and shame can go hand in hand. That's a normal thing. And our brains can experience it more intensely for a number of reasons. And I'm going to go over like why it's more common for us to experience it. Some of those things that create that, why it's not our fault. Some things that we can kind of tell ourselves, some things that might bring on more shame, and then like three key tools of how we can break free from that. So just know that if you feel shame, that's really normal for ADHD. And there's a lot of things that can make us feel like that, whether it's like our working memory sometimes is impaired. We might have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is like fear of rejection on steroids, and that can permeate everywhere. Executive function, we might have trouble like going to appointments or getting ready or taking care of ourselves or prioritizing things or organizing. And so we can have shame if our space is messy or if we forgot something, right? Or if it seems like, the people around us or on social media are able to do stuff that we're not. Or if you have a coach and you're like, why does this coach work for everybody else and not me? What's wrong with me? And that's kind of what a lot of us can go back to. Is like, there must be something wrong with me, or I'm not trying hard enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not smart enough. And we can get these like negative narratives in our head, and then something else happens and it just like cements this narrative in our head, and it's not true. And yet we can find evidence of that, and then it just creates this layer of shame that's really common. And this is especially big if you were not diagnosed until um, you know decades later, which is more common, especially if you're a woman as well, or of a later generation. They weren't getting these diagnoses unless you're a little boy that couldn't sit still in school, that was super restless, and your traits were really extreme on the hyperactive. You may not have gotten caught or diagnosed, and or maybe you have. There might be a teacher or a parent that saw it, but more often you wasn't caught. And so you just think, man, why am I different, right? And studies show that kids with ADHD receive 20,000 more negative messages about our behavior by the age of 8, right? Like 8 years old. Oh, is that right? Yeah, 8 years old, you're hearing negative messages about your behavior 20,000 more times by the age of 8. And why are you late? Why'd you forget this? Why can't you sit still? All of these things. And so, of course, we can internalize those personal failures and have perfectionism, people pleaser, imposter syndrome, and think something must be wrong with me, right? And so, like society, there's stigma out there about ADHD, oh, squirrel or neurodivergence, and so a lot of people assume that stuff that works for them must work for us. And this is a really good analogy because I think when we're dismantling the shame, which is something that needs to happen, I think as much as it can for your journey as a neurodivergent person, is like we want to like dismantle this, right? And one of those things we need to do is like grieve that, and then also understand what's going on. And so here's an analogy. If anybody here has had this, where somebody's like, "Hey, try harder, or do this, or why can't it work for you?" And you think, "Man, why doesn't it work for me? Why can't I try as hard?" So what I want you to think about is, because we're going to get a lot of messages from people around us, all growing up, of advice, and maybe it doesn't work for us. So I want you to think of like allergies. Right? So if somebody has allergies, let's say I'm in North Carolina and we have pollen, and pollen kicks my butt, right? And I know what it's like to experience pollen. So let's say somebody comes to visit, and someone tells them, "Hey, there's pollen here," and the person's like, "Yeah, I don't feel well. I feel really tired," and they're like, "Yeah, it's the pollen here. That's what it is." And then this person that comes to visit says, "No, I really don't feel well. Like I feel really sick. I probably need to go to the hospital." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, no, just take this antihistamine, Flonase, and you can take a Benadryl or something. You're going to be fine. You're being a little dramatic." And the person's like, "No, I feel sick. My throat's closing up. I have trouble breathing. I can't sleep. My heart's beating." And the person who's local says, "Oh my gosh, okay, just chill out. it's allergies. You're going to be fine. It's not that big of a deal. We'll put an air filter in here, right? We'll come to find out that the person's allergic to cats and they didn't know, right? And they're actually getting really, really sick and their throat starts to close up and they do need to go to the doctor. So my point is that it's kind of like a neurodivergent person might be allergic to cats, let's say, and a neurotypical person is just allergic to whatever it is, and they think, oh, they just don't have a point of reference, so they can only speak to what works for them and how their brain works and their allergy or whatever that is, whereas we have something very different going on, but we've been told for so many years that we just need to try harder, take Allegra, take Flonase, and that we're being dramatic. When really we have it's an interest-based nervous system, and there's a whole different wiring of how our brain works and our body works, and that's what research is showing more and more, is how different our biology is and how different our brains regulate dopamine and executive function, and things that work for a neurotypical person don't necessarily work for us. The other thing that can contribute to the shame is that people without ADHD experience what we experience sometimes, whereas we experience it all the times at a different level and more severity, right? So everyone has trouble focusing sometimes. Everybody can get bored. Everybody can be forgetful or have trouble organizing or prioritizing or not want to do something. But ours is very different, and it's not that we're not trying hard enough. It's that our brain literally might not be regulating dopamine in the same way, or the thing doesn't create, it's not stimulating, it's not interesting, because we have an interest-based nervous system, and that's where understanding it and releasing the shame is really really important. What I've heard a lot is like procrastination. We think we're lazy, and really, again, it's about our neurochemicals and how they're regulated. And so that's a really important thing for us to understand about that. So some other things that can bring on shame, because what I found as a coach is identifying when the ADHD shame is coming up is really helpful, because what that does, it stops us from saying, I'm bad, I'm lazy, I'm forgetful, I'm not good enough, right? We can say, oh, this is some of the ADHD, right? This is the shame coming up, versus this narrative is true. So some of those situations are procrastination, which you might have heard me talk about, and I want to talk about that again for a second, is it might look like procrastination, but really it's executive dysfunction. So this is a really key one to understand. Procrastination is when you could do something, but you choose not to, right? You could do it, but you choose not to, because, and sometimes it feels kind of fun, or it feels like you're being bad, whereas like you could answer those emails, but you don't want to, because you want to go have cocktails with your coworkers and it's kind of fun and you'll get to them tomorrow. That's more procrastination, right? Executive dysfunction is when you want to do the thing, you should do the thing, and you just can't. Like, you really, really want to do the thing and you just can't, and you're struggling and you beat yourself up, and it creates more shame, and you feel like frustrated with yourself and nothing works, and you set a timer and you set a punishment, and it, for whatever reason, you just can't do the thing, even if it feels like an easy thing, even if it feels simple. Have you ever had that? Right. And a lot of people that I get, if you don't know me, I've been a coach now for 8 years, and I've done over 10,000 one-on-one calls. And all my clients are ADHD now, as of the last, I think, 2 to 3 years. And a lot of them come in and say they're a master procrastinator. Like they're like, oh, I'm a master procrastinator. Good luck, And I still have yet to find someone that's a master procrastinator. It's usually, so far, right? And maybe there's an anomaly. It is executive function, and it's how the interest is based in our nervous systems. And so with procrastination, we want to layer on pain, right? And we want to say, what would happen if you didn't do this? And how is this going to affect your family? And how does this hurt your goals and things like that? So if I'm coaching somebody who has true procrastination, which I have in neurotypical people, that's what we do. Now, if I'm coaching with ADHD and they have executive dysfunction, I'm not going to do that. We're going to give you tools, or we're going to create dopamine, or we're going to make things more interesting, or we'll set a challenge or accountability, or you're going to body double with somebody else and do it at the same time. And so when you have executive dysfunction, which yours could be very severe or it could be kind of light, the worst thing you can do is layer shame on that, because it's already going to get you more dysregulated, right? And then things are going to be even harder, because you're using your brain power to try and regulate your emotions. And so knowing the difference is really important, because then we can give ourselves compassion and we can give ourselves tools. So that is one of the biggest things I think that can show up with shame, is that executive dysfunction, whether that's not doing lead gen that you're supposed to do, or not having a clean space, or forgetting something, or not organizing or prioritizing, or all of those things can just be layered and layered. The other thing that can cause a lot of shame is time blindness. So time blindness is, with ADHD, our brains gauge time differently, and we can have trouble gauging how long something takes or how long it's been. And so you might be chronically late. You might underestimate the time that's needed for something. You might overcommit to stuff because our brains kind of see time as now or not now. And so we can overcommit to things, and then feel shame that we didn't get it done, even though we didn't need to do it, but we promised we'd do it. So now we want to do it. Another thing that can cause shame is sensory overwhelm. So if you've ever been told, anybody ever been told they're too sensitive? That is, I heard that a lot growing up. We can be sensitive to crowds, to noises, to chaotic environments, even to energy. Some of us are very empathetic or intuitive, and so it's like, or even food. You can have food sensitivities. I'm sensitive to like gluten in the U.S. I can't eat gluten here, or it makes me go crazy. I can have it in Europe, but the chemical they use to process gluten in the U.S. Really messes with my mental health at an extreme level. Like I won't touch it, and if I do, I have like 3 days till my brain goes back to baseline. It's kind of wild. And dairy, we can be sensitive to that. We can have sensitive guts, and so especially like as a man, sometimes like, man, why am I so sensitive? But I think sensitive men are great. I think it's beautiful. I used to kind of feel shame around it, and now I don't. But we can be sensitive to sensory stuff and noises, and it's like, man, suck it up. Why can't I be in this public environment, or why can't I go to this? What's wrong with me, right? Why am I so sensitive to sound? All of those things. Another thing is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So that is basically it's a fear of rejection on steroids that can create emotional pain in our brains. And so we can perceive even neutral feedback as negative. So we might think that we did something wrong or someone doesn't like us, and that's not it at all. Maybe they're just not even thinking about it. It's not even a thing. So that can cause shame as well. Okay, another one, this is a really big one, is our impulse control. So we can have weaker impulse control. So that could be impulsive spending, poor financial habits. That's a really big one. Speaking out of turn, doing things that we regret later, like, why did I say that? Why did I say that out loud? Those kinds of things. And then also just spending, right? And if we think of the time blindness of it's either now or not now, sometimes we can have trouble with budgets, and not just because they feel restrictive, but because we forget stuff, or we think, oh, I'll add this, but we don't think about the other thing we just added, or we are dysregulated and we're using spending to give us dopamine because we're just so lacking in dopamine, and we might be burned out and we're just starving for dopamine. And so dopamine is the reward system in our brain. And so we go for dopamine because we need it. And we don't have the impulse control to stop. And then we regret it later. So that can cause a lot of shame, especially if you've been in the business for a long time. You're like, how do I not have savings? How do I not have a retirement account? I've been in this business for 10 years. Why am I not where I need to be? That is something that can happen too. Yeah, it's hard. It is hard to budget in this business too. Yeah, thank you, Greg. It totally is. Like, it's more complicated. So yeah, budgeting is more complicated. Other thing, ADHD paralysis and burnout. So we can freeze during overwhelm, or because we take in more stimulus, we can be more sensitive. So we are more, and we can overcommit, right? And we can go, we're like a brain of extremes. So we can go, 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 and then we can crash. Go, 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 crash. Like big effort, and then we're like, can't get out of bed. So that can bring on a lot of shame. Why am I not consistent? Anybody have that? Why am I not consistent? Whereas our brains aren't really built for consistency in the same way. Our brains are built for a big push sometimes, and a lot of momentum, and then a break. And so if you're expecting yourself to show up the same day every day, then we can have a lot of shame around that, because that's the standard for a neurotypical person sometimes. Whereas for us, it's okay to do a big push. You might film all your videos in one day, and then you don't have to do a habit of filming a social media video every day, at the same time. And we did last week. I did a call on red, yellow, and green days. So if you do have trouble with consistency, like beating yourself up or executive dysfunction, check out my YouTube channel and watch that, because that's really helpful for that. Another thing that can happen is people pleasing and perfectionism. So we can overcompensate to prove ourselves. Um, I did that. I still do that sometimes. It's kind of wild. And I mean, I did that with my numbers. So I, with a business partner, we were 86 in the world for Keller Williams. We were doing over 300 sales. This was actually about 10 years ago. I was young, and it still wasn't enough. I still didn't feel good enough. I still had all this shame, and we hit these huge numbers, and I was like, oh my gosh, nothing's filling this void. That's intimidating. And that was good. That kind of put me on my journey to unpack more of the shame that I didn't realize was there. So as you can see, there's a lot of reasons why we can have shame, right? There's a lot of reasons, and it's normal to feel shame. Let's talk about like, how do we break free from that, right? So one is self-compassion and understanding. So that's going to be one of the key tools. So just understanding our brain isn't lazy, right? It just works differently. And then replacing the negative self-talk. So we want to look for tools to help ourselves. So a really good way to think about this is like, if it was somebody you care about, or your kid, or like a coworker, right? If that happened to them, how would you talk to them? How would you help them? Your kid, your kid self, your neighbor, your niece, your nephew, anybody, right? You wouldn't say, wow, sucks to be you, right? Like, wow, suck it up. You would say, okay, what do you need? How can I help you? How do we make this easier for you, right? Instead of saying, I'm bad at this or you're bad at this, it's like, hey, this one thing is harder for me than most people, and that's okay, or I'm good at other things. That's something that can work too. Having mantras. I need tools, not shame. How can I be kind to myself? So we want to have compassion, understanding, and also like name whatever it is that's going on. Whether like one example is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, right? So if you are really sensitive to rejection, and someone rejects you, or you think you get rejected, to just pause and say, like, is this my RSD, or did they really reject me? Did they reject me, or they just not need help right now? Do they reject me, or maybe are they just busy and I took it as rejection? Like naming what it might be and giving other options besides I'm bad, they don't like me, I'm not good with friends, or I get rejected. Naming some other alternatives, because we can go to the all or nothing thinking, right? We can be a brain of extremes where it's either all good or all bad. It's either perfect or I'm not going to do it at all. I either win or I lose. They either love me or they don't want to be my friend. I'm either all out on lead gen or I don't do any of it at all. So watch that all or nothing thinking and see if you can find a middle ground, because that can stop the spiral too. Because the all or nothing, like the black and white all or nothing thoughts, don't feel good. The black thoughts feel really horrible. It's like there's no other option, and you just feel horrible, like you're the worst in the world, because we have a brain of extremes sometimes. But you can soften that and train your brain to go for the middle. Um, the next thing, so one is just self-compassion, understanding, right? Self-awareness. The next thing that I'd recommend for breaking free from some of the shame is aligning your life and your work with your ADHD brain. So I had a call with a client today, actually a coaching client, who, and let me know if you relate, has really high standards for themselves, past the point of what's actually realistic and logical for himself. So he comes in with these really high standards every single day and never hits them, and then feels bad about it. So he's always just like stretching, trying to reach this thing, and never ever hits it. Whereas if he were to accept what his capacity is right now, or his capabilities, or his bandwidth, and then plan for that, his business would actually go up. So what I mean by that is, if you can spend 1 hour in admin work and that's it, stop trying to do two. Like, if you really know that that's your capacity, it's not like you just have to be better, grow better. Like, what I would say is get tools in place, get leverage in place, adjust your capacity, work smarter instead of harder, accept where your limitations are right now. Doesn't mean forever. Doesn't mean you're not going to push that and get better at that thing or find different tools, but really understanding what is your capacity right now. What are you capable of right now before you get dysregulated, before it gets too much, before you just freeze and can't do it? And then think of ways to close that gap. So if you need to hit, let's say, 2 appointments a week, no matter what, and your capacity for lead gen is 1 hour a day and that's it, how can you get smarter with that 1 hour a day instead of I need to do 4 hours a day or I'm not doing my job, right? And beating yourself up over and over. So instead, it's like I can do 1 hour a day. After that, I get so squirrely that right now it's just not happening. I've been trying for 2 months, it hasn't worked. How do I get smarter? How do I convert better? What scripts do I need? Because this is my capacity. So accepting what your capacity is really important. And again, it doesn't mean it's not going to change. And then doing that as well. And then also, you might have heard me talk about this before, is the acronym INCUP. So these are the 5 things. This acronym talks about the 5 things that light up and engage an ADHD brain, and that stands for INCUP is interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. Interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. Right. So if you can get your business in alignment with and make it more interesting, make it new, switch up where you do stuff, right? Switch up how you do it, switch up when you do it, more challenging. Maybe you have a challenge with a coworker or a friend or a coach, or you set a goal that if you hit this within a certain amount of time, you can do it, or you set a timer as well and you try to beat the timer. Make it more urgent, put deadlines on there. I used to have a older laptop that would die. It wouldn't, the battery life wouldn't last that long. So I would make a goal that I had to finish my admin task before my laptop died. I'd like unplug it and go somewhere so I couldn't plug it in. And I had to finish my task before the laptop died. Like there's just like little fun stuff that you can do, or like little ideas, to just make things more urgent. And then tied to a passion. So passion is the right, interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. So tied to a passion, maybe it's tied to philanthropic, or maybe it's tied to something that you really care about. You give a percentage back, or maybe you're just passionate about people and you make sure to go into the office or to a coffee shop or community, or you tie your client events to things that you love, like you do a walk in nature together, nature walk, or you might do like a knitting circle or something, right? Something fun, a journaling club, an art club, all kinds of stuff. So make sure that you're getting your business in alignment with what's fun. You don't have to do it the more standard, sometimes formal, boring way that I would say that a lot of neurotypical people might do and might do okay at. You can do it your way because we have 10 times the amount of thoughts as someone without ADHD. And so embrace that, right? Embrace that and get your business in alignment with your brain. Leverage stuff out that you really hate. And if there's a ton of resistance around something, be curious about that, because there might be another way, right? Maybe you don't like that script because it doesn't feel authentic. So don't use it. There's so many other scripts and ways to do lead gen. And then the third one is community. So, and this could be a therapist as well, but build community and talk about it. So shame thrives in silence. Shame thrives in silence. And so when we talk about it, we take away its power, right? And so surround yourself with people that get it, or have a few key people, whether that's online groups and our Facebook groups. If you want to be a part of we have a monthly membership and a referral map and an app and everything. And we have like masterminds and all kinds of cool stuff. That's at ADHDtyler.com if you want to check that out, ADHDtyler.com. But get community and join with other people that get it, talk about it, ask for support, accommodations instead of blaming yourself for struggling. And just give yourself tools. And then also like grieving. That's something that's been really helpful for people. I had to do that too, especially if you're diagnosed later in life. There is a very normal, like useful period of grief that we need to feel a lot of times. If we didn't have a name for what we're experiencing and we shamed ourselves for so many years, it's really healthy to grieve that. And it doesn't feel great. Like feelings don't always feel great in the moment. And if we're not releasing them, they're probably just sitting on our chest somewhere or on our shoulders. And so part of releasing this ADHD shame, which I can attest to, I feel like I've really done that at a high level. And I worked in mental health as well before, but we need to grieve that, right? And process that for it to move on versus just carrying it and thinking something's wrong with us. So going in and like some of our biggest growth for us is maybe not the next challenge or pushing it. It's like facing that guck and whatever inside of us that we feel like isn't good enough or is small or less than, and like staring that in the face and changing that narrative. That is some powerful, intense work. And oh my gosh, it can change your world. And I'll give you an example of uh, something that I could have felt a lot of shame about this last week. And this is probably one of the things I could have felt the most shame about this whole year. So KW Wellness reached out to me about doing an ADHD presentation like months in advance, months, right? The date, the time, all ready to go. And I agreed to it and everything. And I was on the West Coast and I mixed up the time zones and I missed the whole thing. And they had tons of people that registered and they were all waiting for me. And I totally mixed up the time zones and I didn't show up. And they ended up waiting for like 10 or 15 minutes and did a mastermind. It was like this big regional wellness event that was really important. That would be a time that'd be really easy for me to shame myself, right? Like that would be easy. And one thing in big situations like that, I do what's called playing the oops game, right? Because it wasn't intentional. And so I say, oops, right? Like, oops, not like to discount that, but it's like, I didn't do it intentionally. So, oops, like I missed that. And I keep repeating that, oops, like it's okay. It's okay for us to mess up sometimes. It's okay to be imperfect. Doesn't mean we're less than. And so I said, oops. And then I offered my like $3,000 workshop to make up for it, which is like 3 times as long. And they were super grateful and we're going to do that and everything's fine. And they're like super happy. But man, I could have gone down a deep shame spiral with that. Who misses like a presentation that's literally like I'm the only person there, that they planned for months. That was really important. So again, the shame thing is being patient and gentle with ourselves, forgiving ourselves, giving ourselves compassion, which if we haven't got that a lot in our lives and we've gotten pressure or tension or stress, that's real growth as well. So just just another thing is like remind yourself about all the things we are good at, which I'm thinking we might do next call to kind of balance this one out. But just remember yourself, you're good at other things. Your brain is incredible. It's actually a genetic adaptation to advanced society, which I'll talk about probably next week. There's really wonderful things. We're just technically the minority, 3 to 8% of the population in a society that's not built for 3 to 8% of the population, as it would make sense. It's not. And so we don't want to judge ourselves, right? A fish trying to climb a tree and say, man, I'm bad at climbing trees. As I said last week, no, we got to get in the water and glide because we are really good at a lot of things. And it's just really amazing what we can do and how powerful our brains are. And it's just really special. So remind yourself of that and what you're capable of. So again, instead of trying harder, try differently, right? And if shame worked, it would have worked by now, right? If you're running on shame and guilt and all that stuff, and you're still not where you want to be, well, if shame worked, it would have worked by now. So try compassion, try giving yourself tools, try being your best cheerleader, you know what I mean? And see what happens, because that can create dopamine and give you this incredible momentum. So anyways, I really encourage you to have compassion, especially, even practice a little bit more today. That's something you can do right now. If we get off the call by bedtime, give yourself more compassion, see if there's a way that you can alleviate some of that shame or just remind yourself of positive things, because we can rewire the messages in our brain. We really can. Our brains are neuroplastic and we can rewire the neural pathways. And you can I wish you could feel what it's like to release the shame, because it's just so much lighter and so much more fun and peaceful. And it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Thank you for being on as we talk about ADHD and shame. And so that is where it can come up and what you can do about it. And again, if you want to join our membership, ADHDtyler.com, we've got our monthly membership where you can mastermind and really talk about this stuff. Or we've got a lot of free stuff in our Facebook group. So thank you for being on and thank you for the comments. And we'll see you next week when we talk about the amazing things about your brain. So stay tuned.